Representative Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of the committee. It's with some trepidation that I come before you. I believe in my short legislative career, this is actually the first time that I've testified in a committee against a bill. And so for me, it's actually a pretty big deal to be here and to testify about the effects that this legislation might have on the residents of your district and on my constituents in House District 26. For the record, I'm State Representative John Davis, representing Wilsonville, Sherwood, King City, and up to Hillsborough. My district is nearly completely dependent on transportation to get anywhere and to do anything. What's interesting is my district is also very concerned about the environment. My district is very concerned about the quality of life in Oregon and, frankly, the effects of global climate change. And I'm very happy that Senator Edwards and Representative Buckley led with that issue because it is a threshold question. Do the members of this committee and the members of this body have a concern for pumping billions and billions of tons of CO2 into our environment? For me, my belief is that is a bad thing, that we cannot say that billions of cars on the road, some of which are spewing dirty fuels, has no effect on the environment. I believe it does. I believe humans do have an effect, and I believe we need to do something about it. And so I appreciate that being the threshold question, but I would urge you that this is not the answer, and this is not the best answer. I have had some long evenings in the last few days as I made the decision with trepidation to testify against this bill. First, I actually read the bill, and the first thing that came to me is that this is not simply a lifting of a sunset, as the proponents have time and time again claimed. Read the bill. The bill is at length. You and I have all read bills that simply lift sunsets. Bills that lift sunsets are a page long. This bill is pages and pages of changes, of requesting DEQ to implement new rules and not simply to implement an existing program, which is one of the reasons I have such concern with this, is because in what other issue, in what other area would we say after 6 years we will lift the sunset without truly seeing a program being implemented, without seeing it implemented? What we're saying is we're going to change the program substantially with this legislation. We're going to remove any sunset that existed. We're going to defer much of our authority to DEQ, and we're going to hope for the best. I believe both the proponents and the opponents have probably overstated the effects of this bill, but we don't know, and that's the point of a sunset. That's why we have them in legislation. And we do not know the effect that this would have, and why would we lift this sunset that could have a substantial effect on our constituents without knowing what the program does? Back to my constituents who are extremely concerned with the environment and transportation costs. What we do know is, from the research I've done, reading the bill, attempting to read the 64 pages of DEQ regulations and rules that were released in February, I believe, or late January, what we do know is that DEQ is predicting that there will be some cost. And what we know is that the opponents are putting forth other studies that show some significant cost. And the residents of my district, I believe, would not support me increasing the cost of their fuels without knowing that that increased cost, call it a tax, call it a fee, call it a cost, whatever you call it, is not going directly back into the roads and the infrastructure. There was a comment that this doesn't sound like a tax. That's why it concerns me even more, is because the money from this program and the credits that may be purchased don't actually go to the state of Oregon. They don't actually go to the city of Wilsonville or to Washington County or to ODOT for building our roads. They go to private companies at the cost of my constituents. That is a significant concern that I have. I'm also concerned on the effect on our land use system, the effect on food prices, and the effect on the costs of goods and services that my constituents have. The New York Times recently reported on the World Resources Institute study about the effects of biofuel blending programs around the world on our ability as a country and as a world to feed a growing population. We heard that this is not a blending program. This is not a biofuels program. But what we do know is that under existing technology, what we know exists today, blending will be required under this program. And the only way to get to those blending goals is to grow more food and to use that food and the land that's required for fuel and not for food. There is no free lunch, my colleagues. we will pay for this somehow. We're going to pay for it either by funding our roads or by funding private companies through this bill. But also draw your attention to the fact that Oregon and the federal government already have a renewable fuel standard. And so why are we stacking on top of existing standards that thus far we have not fully implemented on the federal level? Why are we stacking when we know that this will have a cost, but we don't really know its effects? We've heard claims about thousands of jobs, but again, I bring you back to the fact that there cannot be a free lunch. Every time we hear legislation about creating jobs without cost, we should be concerned. We should ask the question, how does that come about? And here, the proponents admit that it's not without cost. It's either with an increase in the cost of production, or it's with the purchasing of credits, both of which would go to fund private companies and potentially, I guess, create some jobs that those private companies get to hire, which may or may not be in the state of Oregon, but at the cost of your and my constituents. That's a significant concern for me. I'll just end with, I also have a broader concern about this legislation because it's been stated quite clearly by many that if this legislation moves forward, we can kiss goodbye any hope of a comprehensive transportation package this session. What's amazing to me is that we're entering this session with some momentum from environmental groups, from industry groups, from Republicans, from Democrats, from the executive branch, from the editorial boards, from all the business groups, from all the trade groups, that a transportation package to stave the loss and the deterioration of our transportation and infrastructure system in the state of Oregon. We have momentum behind putting together a package. And I can think of no single piece of legislation and no single thing that we could do as a body to kill that momentum and to stop it than to pass this bill. So I just want you to know that I'm not coming here lightly. I came here and I did my homework. It's concerning to me, the complexity of this, that I even did attempt to go on and read the regulations, read the rules, read how it's going to be implemented, and I had significant difficulty understanding it. I don't completely understand it. There may be people in this room or this building who do, but we should be concerned with a program that has this much complexity, that takes so much time to understand, and even when you think you understand it, we really don't. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity, Chair, to testify. I want to apologize in a sense for being against. I appreciate the efforts of the committee, but it's for these reasons that I would really hope that you will dig into this bill, you'll do the same research that the Senator and I have done, and that you will not support this legislation. Thank you.